How's it, Sweat fans? That's for you, Matthew Cody in the back. Reid Fowler here, taking the reins today on this Aloha Friday. Jesse is in Florida. Emerson is on his third workout of the day, and Glass Sheen is scouting another location for his Tom Brady videos. We got a small crew today, but it packs a ton of punch. Jeff Ulrich and Rosalie Michaels for NFL, and DK Live editor Chirag Hira to talk NBA, and that's where we will begin right now. Let's welcome in Chirag, who has been patiently waiting to talk NBA for a very, very long time. We need your help for a segment we like to call NBA Building Blocks. We need your must-plays at these positions for tonight's 5-game NBA slate. First up, we got center. Where are you leaning here, bud?
Definitely feeling like Steven Adams is the play for center. It allows you to spend down a little bit. He's not overly expensive. The Thunder are playing on the second night of a back-to-back, and they're going to be traveling to Charlotte. Charlotte ranks 28th in field goal percentage for the team. The Thunder are playing on the second night of a back-to-back. I feel that there's going to be a lot more potential rebounds in this game here, providing Steven Adams to have the double-double bonus. And also, Charlotte has really struggled all year against centers, and this gives us a little bit of area to spend up now with some value here already.
Very nice. So we're going to talk OKC in a little bit, towards the end of the show, actually. But second, we need your lock for wing. Where are you leaning towards? There's a lot of options out there.
A lot of options, definitely. I like a ton of wings, but, you know, Jimmy Butler has the safest floor and has a really strong potential upside. His minutes projection from all the small forwards is really strong. And, you know, with a ton of guards available and not a lot of strong forward options, I feel on the wings, you need to start with Jimmy Butler.
So you just talked about guards. I mean, just looking at here, there's a ton. I mean, Luka Doncic, you talked about him in terms of his health. Looks like he's going to be playing here. Again, Chris Paul, I talked about OKC. A lot of potential trade rumors, whether you believe him or not, that he might be going elsewhere. But he's probably going to be staying put. Where are you leaning towards for guard?
D'Angelo Russell. The Warriors are going to be playing against the Suns tonight. They're coming off a thrilling victory over the Rockets on Christmas. But what's really important is D'Angelo Russell has an extremely high usage rate. If you want to run it back as well, I do not mind running it back with Devin Booker. You know, the Suns and the Warriors, they're not really good defensive teams, so running it back with these guards should be able to really nice play because of the fact that their salaries are not exuberant. You're not going to be asking to pay $10,000 or $11,000 or $12,000 like Giannis on the slate. So, you know, starting here with D'Angelo Russell and running it back with Devin Booker is where I'm looking at guard.
Yeah, you and I were just talking about potentially waiting to pay our credit card bills. Hope the credit card companies aren't listening right now because it's a little high right now. We need some value savings. If you're a Karan Phillips type of guy, you're always looking to save here. Where are you going for value play?
I'm attacking the same game with Phoenix and Golden State. Willie Cauley-Stein has really stepped it up. He's in the starting lineup. You know, DeAndre Ayton is not expected to play, so Aaron Baines is going to continue to start. While he's a solid defender, you know, Willie Cauley-Stein does give you that potential double-double bonus. He gets the steals and blocks, and as well, you know, he sets the screen. So this is a high pick-and-roll team now with Willie Cauley-Stein and D'Angelo Russell. So running it back with Willie Cauley-Stein in this game and really attacking the Suns and Warriors, I believe is the way to win on the slate.
This is extra credit. I know you didn't prepare for this, but I know you're a California kid. We got some, you know, obviously some great teams in California with the Lakers and Clippers. Do you really think, I know you're Lakers, do you really think that they can beat the Clippers?
Yes, I do believe they can beat the Clippers. And the reason why is Anthony Davis. The Clippers do not have an answer for him on the interior. If they could just post up and attack, instead of launching threes, let's get LeBron healthy and we can go from there. I think we can win on the interior. The wings, you know, the Clippers have it on the wings.
Some help there. All right, bud. Thanks. Appreciate it. Stick around because we'll need you at the very end to talk NBA spreads. We got Week 17 NFL coming up after we hear from Adam Kaufman talking with Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com on what happened last week and what we can expect this week against Washington.
Tara Lanizak here, and I'm joined by Nick Eatman, who covers the Dallas Cowboys for the team's website. And Nick, this is it, Week 17, and it could be the last game for the Cowboys without a little help. We'll get to all that coming up, but let's start with what happened last week. A loss to the Eagles, and now Dallas doesn't control their own destiny to get into the playoffs. What went wrong in Week 16?
Well, man, I don't know how much time we have here, but it'd be easier to say what went right. I can't even figure that out either. But it all starts with the offense. I think with Dak Prescott, whether he was hurt, whether he wasn't, he looked like a guy that didn't practice all week, and he didn't really. So he was rusty, and then when he did make the throws, his receivers didn't help him much. And needless to say, the offense was not on the same page, especially in the passing game. They'd just come off a big win against the Rams where they basically just ran over that defensive line, did whatever they wanted to in the ground game, and then didn't really give the ball to Zeke and really let him get established. So it was almost like they outsmarted themselves, thinking, well, let's not go back to the well again. And it was just a really head scratching day from that offense, and the defense was okay. They just they didn't make the plays when they needed to get off the field. So you add all that up, and I think what the analogy that I made was back when you were in school and the professor gave you like 3 weeks to get a project done, and you still had 4 or 5 days to go, while someone else was up till 3 a.m. the night before. I mean, the Eagles were desperate, the Cowboys didn't look desperate, and it showed.
Wow, that was definitely me up till 3 a.m. the night before.
Yeah, I mean, drinking Mountain Dew all day long, staying up. I mean, that's what the Eagles did, and the Cowboys were like, well, I'll come back to it tomorrow and all that. I mean, there is no tomorrow if you don't go and take care of business, and now you got to hope that the Eagles stumble in New York.
Exactly. Now, I have to bring this up. One of the most puzzling plays of the game was when Amari Cooper was seemingly benched for an important 4th down try late in the game. Jason Garrett didn't offer much of an explanation after the game, and some reports are saying he was benched for poor performance. What was your take on that play?
Well, I really think the benching was the series before. I think that they just had seen enough of him just struggling through the game, and so instead of saying, here's our franchise receiver and our best guy, and let's make sure we get him out there, he was kind of just in the mix with the rest of the guys and the rest of the rotation. So that's kind of what happened this series before. He got back on the field. They were driving. Yes, they were rotating and trying to stay fresh, but at that point in the game, I think the Cowboys should have done a better job of calling a timeout there, even though they were trying to keep the 3. I think it's better to get on the same page. Let's say let's get the right play call here. Let's get everybody some Gatorade, get them ready to go. They need to be out there for this play right here because this is the season. And it's a little disappointing too for Cooper and for Randall Cobb, I guess, because he was also out, that they didn't see that and demand to be out there. That it's just you can pass blame on everybody in that situation on that play. I don't think if they would have said, no, we're out there, I don't think the Cowboys would have said, no, you're not. So it's just one of those puzzling things. It's hard to put your finger on what's going on with this team, but clearly it's not working.
Right, and you mentioned Dak Prescott hasn't been practicing. He's been banged up. He went into this game nursing a sore shoulder, but ended up throwing 44 times. Is something actually wrong with Dak, or has his play just fallen off as a result of a long season?
Well, I think those are both really good questions, and maybe the answer is a little bit of both. I do believe that the shoulder injury thing is another thing that's head scratching, because they, at the end of the week last week, they didn't even have him on the injury report to say he was questionable, like he was definitely going to play. Goes and plays and says the shoulder wasn't a factor, even though now reports are coming out that he did take a shot or did something at halftime to alleviate the pain. And then now he's back on the injury report and he's not practicing something. So, again, when I get this thing figured out, it'll probably be the draft for next year. But as it stands right now, I mean, it's just so many different things and saying here and there. No, but I think you have to say Dak hasn't played well. Yeah, it doesn't matter shoulder or not. He hasn't played well. He didn't have a great game there in that last game against Philly. And, he's got all these yards, but at the end of the day, they're 7-8, and he hasn't done the things that you have to do as a quarterback to lead your team back to win. They have no second half comebacks this year. They have not come back to win a game in which they trailed at all in the second half. And I just think that goes to a sign of a team that's not very clutch. And it fair or not, it goes to the quarterback.
right? And the game was close throughout, but Dallas seemingly abandoned the ground game. Ezekiel Elliott only had 13 carries for 47 yards. Was the game plan just to try and throw on this Eagles secondary regardless of whether it was working or not?
Apparently that is the case. And the Cowboys are going to say, well, we'll take what they give us. And, Philadelphia did bring some guys down in the box to do that. But, is it better to try to keep running them out of that and keep, trying to get some yards there with Zeke, or throwing, with a quarterback that is not on and he can't make the plays? And so, give Philadelphia credit for saying, hey, if this guy's as banged up as he looks like he is, let's see if he can beat him. And he couldn't do that. So, I do think the Cowboys tried to go out there and take advantage of that secondary, and it just didn't work.
All right, I could go on about last week's game, but I'll stop there. They've got the Redskins in a very winnable game, but to make the playoffs, they need the Eagles to lose to the Giants as well. I'm sure everyone in the Cowboys locker room is saying they can only focus on themselves, but what is the overall mood surrounding this team on the brink of elimination?
Well, they all sound like their head coach, and their head coach says, like you just said, you control what you control. That's all they can really do. Yeah, they would like the Giants to beat the Eagles, but they also know that they have to go out and beat the Redskins or it won't matter. So that's the focus. They know the Redskins will be a tough opponent, that they're playing teams very tough right now. They've lost 3 games in a row, but all close games. They've won a couple here in the last 5 games. And so they're playing better football. And I think when you get division teams that know each other, these games are won today and yesterday and Tuesday. The Redskins will play hard on Sunday. The Cowboys will play hard on Sunday. But who's prepared? Who's ready? Who was able to get over the distractions of Christmas and the holidays and all those things and actually do the necessary things to be prepared to win? When teams say all the time about, well, they've quit, they've given up on the season. You don't give up on Sunday. Everybody plays on Sunday. You give up earlier in the week when you don't do the necessary things it takes to extra set of film session here, a little bit of weight room, all of those things. And so that's what it'll be interesting to see, is who is still applying themselves in the week to go out and win the game. And with the Cowboys still having something to play for, if they don't go do that, then that would be a shame.
NFL playoffs start up next week, and DK is giving you more chances to win with special achievements this year. Starting today, you can earn more DK crowns by completing any of the following during the NFL playoffs. Play at least a $1 entry into all 11 Showdown matchups during the playoffs to become the Showdown Ironman. The Irish Monster tracks the total passing, rushing, and receiving yards that are recorded in your paid Classic, Showdown, and Tiers entries. And you earn 100 DK crowns if you're drafted. DST scored a touchdown in a Classic NFL paid lineup. As the playoffs approach, we'll discuss which teams may help you reach these achievements right here on The Sweat each morning. So stay tuned for that and log on to DraftKings.com for more information on all the achievements and how to win. All right, let's move into the NFL with my favorite NFL analyst, the Fantasy Girl, Rosalie Michaels and Jeff Ulrich. Rosalie, good luck with my main man there, Ulrich. We need you guys.
Always a good time with you guys.
Yeah, we'll need you guys to help out our viewers in deciding if these games will go over or under the projected totals. And if Jeff is incorrect, I will interject as well. But I have faith in both of you guys. Rosalie, we'll start with you. Tampa at Atlanta is currently at 48. Where are you leaning here?
I'm leaning over here. I mean, Tampa is the best in the league on the overs, right? 11-4 on the season. So you got to trust in that. Atlanta, they're one of the worst, but Dan Quinn has his job back. They just said that he's coming back again next year. He won't be doing the defensive play calling, but if you look at the history between these two teams over the last 3 years, they've only hit the under 1 time versus each other, even at these high scoring games. And we all know how many points per game that Atlanta and Tampa Bay give up overall. So this definitely could be a shootout. Jameis has shown that he can still throw a lot of interceptions, yeah, but he can throw touchdowns still as well. So I like the over here.
Jeff, where are you leaning?
Same idea. I'm still a little surprised at how small the total is in this game, 47. I mean, Jameis Winston, for all his flaws, he has absolutely dominated Atlanta over his career. He's got 11 touchdowns against Atlanta in their last 3 meetings. Rosalie mentioned these have hit the over easily in their last couple of years as well. All of the meetings. It's very strange. Tampa Bay is also 11-4 hitting the overs this year just as a team. And I suppose that the only reason this total is under 50 is because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin aren't out there. But look, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, Justin Watson, Brashad Perryman, he's still got enough targets to throw to there. It's not like Bruce Arians is changing his philosophy here for the last game of the season. Atlanta's been fine as well. They got Austin Hooper back as a secondary option. I'm just a little bit shocked that this total is this low. I expect it to be hammered up a little bit closer to 49 by the time we hit Sunday. But right now, like anything under 48, I love the over for this total. There's just too much history between these two teams. And like I said, Jameis just dominates Atlanta. So, give me the over.
Yeah, and over is 6-1 in their last 7 meetings there. Jeff, we'll stick with you. We got the Saints at Carolina, like a lot of news that we'll get to in a little bit with the Saints. But Peyton comes out and says this every year that he won't rest his starters. I mean, maybe he should, but Coach Talk is never to be trusted. McCaffrey needs 67 yards to get that 1,000-yard receiving on the season. This is at 45.5. Where are you leaning?
Kind of a similar thought process. I like the over quite a bit here. I mean, Carolina's 10-5 hitting overs on the season. They're one of the fastest paced teams just in terms of pace of play on the year. And you mentioned Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they basically come out and said, we're just playing this game like it's every day. We're going to give Christian McCaffrey 1 million touches. They want to get him the record. There's going to be no slowdown here. And I know it's Will Grier at quarterback, but even you just add like an extra series or two, you're forcing the Saints to put the ball in the end zone an extra time if they get up. New Orleans probably just wants to come in here, put up like 25 points and just, go into the playoffs and not deal with it. But Carolina's going to force the pace here. They basically come out and said that. And it's probably just going to lead to a little bit more scoring for the Saints. So even if Will Grier sucks, I could see New Orleans putting up 30 here. I think 45.5 again. It's kind of like the last game. Little surprised that the total here is this low. These are two teams that can definitely, put up some points pretty quick too if the pace gets going. So give me the over here too.
Yeah, Rosalie, Christian McCaffrey, we talked about all the superlatives with him. I think he needs something like 27 or 28 points to beat out LaDainian Tomlinson's record-setting fantasy season. But talking about the over-under here, Carolina over is 4-0 in Panthers' last 4 versus an NFC team. Are you here with Jeff as well?
Yeah, I'm here with Jeff as well. It's funny, I just actually spent the past 5 days in New Orleans.
Oh, that's right.
For Christmas, I was in New Orleans. And I just got to say, I love coming from Arizona where we love our Cardinals, but it's a whole different atmosphere in New Orleans and the way that they value their Saints, and I loved it. Obviously, this is not a home game for them, but still, I love the Saints. They are pushing for that first round bye, and that to me tells me that they're going to put the pedal to the metal. They're going to do everything they can to make sure they clinch that. They're not going to lay off these Carolina Panthers that give up the second most points per game to opposing offenses. And you know what? I think New Orleans could score 45.5 on their own. They really could. So I think they're going to put the pedal to the metal. They're not going to rest their starters because, like you said, that's just not Sean Payton's way. He goes all out, and I love it. And Carolina, I know that they're going to be just pushing Christian McCaffrey, which is what they need to do in order to keep up with the Saints. That's the one aspect of their offense that still works. In that terrible, terrible showing last week, he still scored so many points. So, yeah, I like the over here. They're going to score a lot of points. New Orleans is on their own. If Carolina scores some, that's just bonus points.
Rosalie, Philly at the Giants at 45. Eagles control their destiny. You like this game to go over? I mean, this is a discussion that we're talking about for this division that, I don't know, is like a guilty pleasure in the NFL. Like both of this entire division is bad. But where are you leaning in this over/under?
Yeah, I am leaning the over here. Again, we look at Philly, and Philly's looking to win that hot potato division that nobody seems to want to win. So they've got an easy way to clinch it up this week against a really bad New York Giants team. Philly showed last week that they can still get some offense done it still looked pitiful. They have no receivers other than their tight ends, and they do have Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is doing a great job at the end of this season. He's finally showing that he can be that workhorse back. So, when you look at the record between these two teams, I love division rivalries. Philly, when they are away, they're actually 5-2 at hitting the over. Giants are 3-4 when they're home at hitting the over. But I'm trusting that Philly offense. And if you look at them situationally over the past 3 years, they've hit the over more times than not. It's 6-2 over the past 3 years in hitting the over. They did hit the under this last game a few weeks ago, but I'm trusting the situational that they are going to hit the over here. They're going to be scoring both teams a lot of points.
Jeff, we talked about Philly quite a bit. I mean, Carson Wentz, hot not. I mean, he controls that destiny along with that team. Where do you think this goes?
Yeah, this one's a little bit less clear for me. I mean, I could definitely see the over hitting. I'm going to lean towards the under here. Philly 7-8 hitting the over on the season. The Giants are a bit better. They actually have a winning record as far as hitting the over, but I do feel like a lot of those Giants overs hit because their defense was so bad. They were going up against offenses that just put up a lot of points against them. I don't really think that Philly is going to be in a position to do that with all their injuries on the wideouts and even to Zach Ertz. So I feel like Philly, who is actually a bottom 10 team in terms of pace of play this year, or bottom 15 team in terms of pace of play this year, they're going to try and run the ball a lot. And they've got Jordan Howard and probably going to be back, and Miles Sanders, like Rosalie mentioned. They've kind of turned into this running team, and they're going to try and take advantage of their D-line and put some pressure on Daniel Jones and make this a bit of an ugly game. I do think this is going to be a close game. I think the Giants are going to keep it competitive. Their defense has been pretty good in spots of late too. So again, this isn't my favorite total to bet on or anything, because I do feel like with Daniel Jones's level of play, and the Giants still have some holes in their defense too, this could easily start picking up the pace of play a bit. But I'm going to lean towards the under. I do feel like this is going to be a close kind of playoff type game.
But Jeff, the Giants just put up like 40+ points in overtime. I mean, you don't trust that
against the Redskins. Have you seen how bad the Redskins defense has been?
Have you seen how bad the Phillies secondary is?
Yes.
Yeah, but but at least have a pass rush. We'll see. It's going to be a close game either way.
Well, moving on to what seems to be a barn burner, Jeff. Jets at Buffalo is currently set at 36. A lot of chatter that some of these guys on the Jets won't be there next season already, and the season's not even done yet. Gase I don't know what he's doing. What do you like here?
I mean, this is going to be the most boring game of the week, and it definitely got to take the under. I don't care if the total's like 30 points. I mean, Buffalo's 4-11 hitting the overs here, so a lot of their games have gone under. The Jets have a losing record against the over as well. And look, Buffalo's come out and said, like, we're not even sure how much we're going to play our starters here. So, I mean, you could see Matt Barkley after like the first drive. The Jets play it. Both these teams play at a slow pace, especially the Jets, though. I know New York has come out and say, "Oh, we're going to treat this like a playoff game. We're going to try and win." That's great. If the Buffalo just gives up though, and the Jets get up by a score or two, this game's just going to play. The clock's just going to go by so fast. So I'm taking the under here.
Rosalie, you treating this like a preseason game where we might see Matt Barkley going under?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's ugly. You look at these two teams over their last 5 games too. They're 1-4. They against the over/under number. That's not inspiring at all. And so, and even situationally, they just don't play each other on a high level. I love division rivalries, but I don't see any kind of urgency with either of these teams. Like Jeff said, they just are kind of meh at this point. I mean, Buffalo, you got to like what they're doing on the season. I mean, as an overall team, but I think this is just a meh game. Buffalo doesn't need to do a whole heck of a lot in order to win it, so I don't think they're going to. Jets are just terrible at actually scoring points. 28th in the league in terms of points per game, going up against a really, really good Buffalo defense who doesn't give up a lot of points. So low scoring, not a lot of fantasy relevance. Give me meh. I'm going under.
Talking about a story that might not be meh is Antonio Brown. News came out that he's working out with the Saints. Over under number of snaps he plays in the NFL postseason, Jeff. What do you think? Come on.
I'm going to take over 0.5. I think the Saints are going to sign him. You look at the Saints' history, man. They're the ones who signed Adrian Peterson coming off his season of issues. They just signed Janoris Jenkins. They don't mind taking on controversy. This is a team that just puts winning above all things. And yeah, he might not play a ton. He might just be an insurance policy. I think this might actually happen, though. And again, I'm just going on pure speculation. We just got the news this morning, but it wouldn't shock me if they signed him. A lot of this might come down to Roger Goodell, too. So, but I'll take it over.
Rosalie, are you leaning here with Jeff? I know you lit some candles there. Might be dead on arrival for Antonio Brown on this Saints team. They also signed Des Bryant last year, the year before that. I can't remember what year it was. So what do you think here?
Yeah, I do. I think this is just kind of a depth thing. We know Michael Thomas is a little banged up. So is he more banged up than we understand? Is that why this is happening? To me, Sean Payton doesn't do things for no reason. There's always a purpose in what he's doing. But when you look at Bill Belichick and the fact that Bill Belichick just cut AB loose and was like, nope, no, thank you. He did it to Josh Gordon, too, and we saw what happened when Josh Gordon went to Seattle and then he had issues again. Bill Belichick would not have cut him if there weren't some really deep-lying issues there. And so I worry that there's not going to be any plays for Antonio Brown. They may be looking at him because why wouldn't you? But if any of you out there have been following either Antonio Brown's Instagram or his Twitter, there's something going on in his head. He's just not at normal capacity right now. He's got this whole hashtag right now of no more white women 2020. And that's what he's leading with. I think he needs to focus on that and not worry about playing football right now. He's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. There's just too much dichotomy there for me. I think he doesn't play at all for the Saints.
Yeah, Sherrod still in studio. He almost fell off his seat with that question being asked. And look, Rappaport, he's visiting the Saints, but still, most likely, he's still going to be on the NFL Commissioner's exempt list until the investigation is complete. We'll leave that to bed. We'll need you guys in a little bit for some chalk talk, so stick around. Before we go to break, we want to tell you not to miss undefeated super featherweight world champion Gervonta Tank Davis take on former unified featherweight world champion Yuriorkis Gamboa for the World Boxing Association lightweight title live this Saturday, December 28th at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Showtime. Here's a preview.
It's boxing's holiday event of the year. Undefeated Tank Davis battles Yuriorkis Gamboa in an explosive title fight.
This fight is going to be powered by the letters K-O.
In 2019 with the banner. Ring out the year, Inside the Ring, on Showtime.
It's time for the Week 17 edition of Levitan's Leverage. He's Adam Levitan. I'm Tyrone Azak. A lot of tough choices for fantasy players to make in Week 17. Who starts? Who sits? Who will be held back in the final week of the regular season? Adam, you are here to help us out with that. You're rolling with Ezekiel Elliott this week in the Cowboys' must-win matchup against the Redskins. Is that the biggest factor in your decision to start Zeke?
Yeah, Cowboys are still alive to make the playoffs if they win and the Eagles lose, which is certainly possible. Cowboys are in, and in these kind of games at home against the Redskins team, which allows so many touchdowns, which allows so many rushing scores in the red zone, it just sets up so well for Ezekiel Elliott. And I think one of the big things that with Zeke this week is, whereas a lot of other guys are priced up into the 9K range, Zeke's kind of lackluster season has left him down at 8K, and I think that's very, very cheap.
The Saints have something to play for as they are looking for that first-round bye. They take on Carolina, who's been horrible against opposing running backs this season. So naturally, you love Alvin Kamara here, right?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara's usage has been fine all year. The touchdowns have not been there. That began to regress last week when he was finally able to find the end zone. And yes, Saints are extremely motivated in this game. And Alvin Kamara is going to catch between 4 or 6 passes, and he's going to get between 10 and 15 carries. And that kind of floor is really, really hard to find in a full PPR format like DraftKings. So I think this sets up pretty nicely for Kamara to have really good rushing efficiency as well as scoring equity.
And last one, you're going back to the well with the Cowboys, and this time it's a receiver. You like Michael Gallup in this matchup against Washington over Amari Cooper. Why is that?
Yeah, we saw last week, late in the game, their biggest game of the year, and Amari Cooper ends up getting benched, getting rotated out in favor of Tavon Austin, and that really surprised me, man, and that scared me. The guy who isn't rotating out, the guy who Dak Prescott is looking for, is Michael Gallup, who continues to play really, really well. Awesome matchup against an already bad Redskins secondary, which is now banged up also. So you get some savings on Michael Gallup, and I think you just get a safer player at this point.
All right, that will do it for the final regular season edition of Levitan's Leverage. We'll see you in the playoffs, Levy.
All right, thank you.
Moving from the NFL right into NHL for tonight's 11-game slate, DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich here to help us out in a segment we call NHL Opening Face-Off. Jeff, we're going to need you to choose between top options at these positions on tonight's slate. We're first going to go to center. We got back-to-back 2-goal games from Patrice Bergeron. He is 7,600 tonight at Buffalo. Will you ride the hot hand or try to save some money with someone like Evgeny Malkin, who is just at 6,900? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting slate. There's a lot of big names at center. Bergeron obviously playing well, been very productive his last 2 outings. The Bruins have struggled a bit. At the same time, they had a pretty spirited effort in their last game, which was a win, 7-3 over Washington. Bergeron obviously got going. I kind of feel like you'll probably see his wingers take over some of the scoring here. Bergeron's never been like a 50-goal guy or anything. So 4 goals over his last 2 games, probably. I don't think that pace is going to continue or anything. I would probably go with the cheaper option here in Malkin, who's also got a fantastic matchup against Nashville, who's basically been a bottom 10 team in terms of penalty kill, goals against average. And Malkin is just so much cheaper. You can fit Malkin in and then go with one of those Bruins wingers if you want, or just stack Malkin with his wingers. But center's loaded. Like, I really like Austin Matthews at 7,300 as well, who I think is way too cheap tonight going up against the Devils. Matthews has been just as hot as Bergeron. Fantastic young player and a better pure goal scorer too. So I kind of like Matthews sandwiched in between these 2 guys, but I do like the value on Malkin a lot too.
Jeff, I feel like we should be talking golf, the Century Tournament champions, when it's just you and me in the show, but we got to stick to NHL. Moving to the wing. I know, next week. Hey, everyone cares. Moving to the wing position, Patrick Kane was on fire before posting just 3 fantasy points in his last outing. Can he pick it back up tonight versus the Islanders for a reasonable price at $7,000? Or will you look elsewhere, say like Artemi Panarin, who is 6,800 with the Rangers taking on Carolina? Where are you leaning here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love either of these 2 guys. I mean, they don't really have the greatest matchups. Definitely with, going up against Carolina doesn't allow a ton of shots. Carolina has had its goalie issues, though, so that would probably lead me towards Panarin, who's been very productive and just played very well over the last month or so. Kane is obviously like a solid player as well, but going up against the Islanders, who, again, they often lead the league in shots against as far as, not allowing many shots. They've been a little bit suspect defensively this year, but then pretty solid still. And really, Chicago just has not performed well, their power play either. So Kane, to me, and kind of the whole Blackhawks offense right now, which is a little bit banged up too, is kind of a fade. I actually like going on the other side of that game to someone like Matthew Barzal for around the similar price tag. Obviously, he plays center, but I like Panarin. I don't mind the price. I think under 7K right now for Panarin is a bit of a bargain. Again, it's not the greatest matchup. I kind of like the Carolina offensive players a lot better. But if you're looking to game stack, you're just looking to be a bit contrarian. Panarin's definitely in play. Like I said, he's a player who can go off against anyone. He's under 7K. It's good value still.
All right, moving on to defense now. Not your average season for Brent Burns, but he does have double-digit fantasy points in his last 4. He is 6,200 tonight with the Sharks taking on the Kings. Will you give him a chance or go with the red-hot Alex Pietrangelo? Pietrangelo. I even spelled it out, too. Fail. For 600 less with St. Louis battling Winnipeg.
Hey, Reid is still doing way better than
I know.
on these games, so let's just give him some credit here. Look, yeah, Brent Burns, obviously a bit of a down year offensively, but look, this is a player who I think second half of the year, you're probably going to see some good positive regression. He's already started to pick up the pace a little bit. Even if he is like seeing a few less minutes, he's still not, the stats haven't shown the first half of the year what Brent Burns can do. So this is a very good spot going up against the Kings. the power play defenseman kind of always in play against LA, does not have a good penalty kill. I like going with Burns between these two. Peter Angelo is still pretty good value, I admit, and he doesn't have the worst matchup either. But, you look at the careers of these two. Brent Burns has been so much more productive offensively. Like I said, I think we're going to see some good games from him coming up soon because he really is due for some. I do like Chris Letang at 5,900 for power play defenseman too. I already mentioned the Pittsburgh offense once, but I think pairing him with Malkin tonight makes a lot of sense. He's under 6K as well, but between these two, definitely give me Burns.
All right, I'm going to do no names for this last position. Goalie, who are you looking at tonight?
Yeah, I mean, goalies, obviously, whenever you have a 7-game or 11-game slate, lots of goalies are in play here. I'll just list off my favorite couple here. Tuukka Rask at 7,500 is a little bit ridiculous here. I know Boston has been struggling. They're lost 7 of the last 9 games. And Rask hasn't exactly played well in that stretch, but he is coming off a very good outing against Washington, stopped 39 of 42 shots. And the thing is, he's 7,500. And like the Bruins are still minus 150, minus 160 favorites in this game against Buffalo. Buffalo has also struggled a lot of late. They're losers of 4 of the last 5. So I think Rask is in a terrific spot to get the win bonus here. He's in a good bounce back spot. And realistically, this is just too cheap for a goalie who's that big a favorite on the slate. The other guy I kind of like is Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues going up against Winnipeg. It is a road game. Again, this is more of a pick. The Blues are slight favorites, but Binnington's been really good over his last little stretch. Four wins in a row. Blues are cruising right now, too. They're winners of 6 in a row. So I like this game for St. Louis. I think they're going to come out on top, and Binnington should have a good game just from that fact alone. So.
Very nice. Who's your slate approved for this 11-game slate?
Yeah, I'm going Austin Matthews. Again, been on a bit of a tear here, 9 points over his last 4 games. Going up against the Devils, who are still just like a bottom 5 team defensively. I know they played well in their last game, but the Toronto offense seems to be clicking pretty well right now, especially Matthews. When he gets in these kind of modes, he can definitely put up some points in a very short period. So I think 7,400. He's just too cheap. Give me Austin Matthews.
Very nice. Thanks, bud. No getting out of your seat just yet. Keep that mic on. We need you for NFL Chalk Talk with Rosalie right after we hear from Taryn Asack, catching up with Mike Francesa, previewing some of Sunday's biggest NFL games.
The Browns are 3-point road favorites over the Bengals. Can the Browns end the year on a high note?
I think it's important for the Browns. The head coach is still hopeful he can convince ownership. He's right on the hot seat right now. Right now, they're not sure they want to bring him back. It's been such a bitterly disappointing year. The Bengals have checked out. They tried a couple of weeks, but they'll check out. They're going to have the number 1 pick. They're going to have Burrows. They're going to take him, the kid from LSU, with the first pick in the draft. They'll trade Dalton off. I got to figure that the Browns will go out with a win. They have the more talent, and Kitchens is fighting for his job. So he's hoping to get a second season. It's not guaranteed he will, but he's fighting to get one. So you'd have to like the Browns there.
As we know, the Ravens have things locked up, but are still small 1-point favorites over the Steelers. Pittsburgh needs to win, and the Ravens will likely rest everyone. So can the Steelers win?
Yeah, they'll win. I don't think the Ravens play anybody in this game. Number one, their quarterback as a running quarterback is someone you want to protect. Number two, they're going to now have a couple of weeks to get back. They're going to get a bye anyway. So this is a good time for them to rest. The Steelers will come in, play hard. Now, the Ravens could beat the Steelers with their second team. That's a possibility because the Steelers are so bad offensively. And they're so banged up now at quarterback. They replaced the quarterback, but then Rudolph got hurt again. Their defense is good. You got to figure the Steelers will find a way. But, again, the Ravens, you can't play them this week because they're going to rest everybody.
Redskins at Cowboys. Dallas just has to win. But can they cover a 10.5-point spread as the favorites?
Listen, this has been a terrible season for the Cowboys, and they have to hope that the Giants, who have won their last 2, and almost beat them. Listen, they had a huge lead against the Eagles 3 weeks ago in Philly and lost the game in the final seconds. They had the Eagles beat. They won the last 2 games. They're going to try hard, the Giants, the last week. The Cowboys have to go about their business, win this game by open lengths, win this game by 21, 24 points, and then hope against hope that the Giants can upset the Eagles. That's their route to the playoffs. There's nothing else they can do. They move all those games that are up for grabs to the 4 o'clock, so they can't play scoreboard watching. So the bottom line is they're not going to know for sure. in the second half, if they see that the Eagles have a 30-point lead, be careful, because that could deflate them. But other than something like that happening, then you would expect the Cowboys to run and roll over the Redskins. The Redskins were playing in the second half against the Giants last week with guys who had never played in the secondary before. They had nobody left. They were down so many players in the secondary. They lost 4 deep backs last week. They can't stop the Cowboys, who have been a miserable disappointment.
Titans at Texans. Tennessee needs a win to clinch a playoff spot. Houston can still move up to the 3 seed, but is that enough for them to cover a 5-point spread?
History tells me that it's not. That teams that are only playing for seeding don't play as hard as teams that are playing to get into the playoffs. I think you take the Titans with the points. I mean, you take Tennessee laying the points because the Texans aren't going to play hard, I don't think. I think the Titans are going to, again, hope against hope that they can get into the postseason. They know what they have to do to get into the postseason. They have to go in there and win that game. You got to figure they're going to do that.
The Eagles are 4.5-point faves over the Giants. Philly can clinch a playoff spot with the win. Can they cover too?
They have to. Listen, the Eagles, after the job they did against the Cowboys, as badly beat up as they were, losing players during the game, being down all their starting wide receivers, and to still beat the Cowboys, I can't see them now falling short. The Giants will give it a good fight. The Giants have a good offense. The Giants have a terrible defense. The Eagles will take advantage of that. You have to go with the only way to go with this game is go with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to find a way. Plus, they always beat the Giants.
Nothing really to play for as the Cardinals and Rams face off with LA as 7.5-point favorites. Who do you like here?
See, I think the Rams are playing for pride, and that matters. They want to have a winning season. And I think Arizona is trying to show you that, hey, we won a big game at Seattle. We want to show you that we're building for the future, that we're ready to move forward. We're playing better here late in the season, which they are. They beat the Browns. They come back. They beat the Seahawks. They'd love to finish with a 3-game winning streak and take that building block into next year. So both these teams will play very, very hard. And I think you're going to be looking at a very, very close game. I would not be surprised. Would not be surprised if Arizona won this game. It's been a very long, disappointing season for the Rams, no question. So I would not be in any way surprised if this game went right to the wire. I would take the points with the Cardinals in this game.
Let's talk Raiders at Broncos. Oakland actually has a small chance to still make the playoffs with a lot of help, but They need to win first. Can they do that in Denver as 4-point underdogs?
Maybe, but I think Denver's going to win. I think the Raiders their chances are so slim, they're not realistic. And I think Denver right now is playing the better football, so I think the Broncos will win.
Colts at Jaguars. Indy is a 3.5-point favorite. Any reason to care about this one?
Not really. I think the Colts would like to finish the season at 500. They hit that one slump in the season. Otherwise, they really played well. They have to decide whether they have to draft a quarterback. I don't think. Listen, they were holding out hope that Luck would come back. They have gotten no indication that Luck would come back. They now have to decide whether they want to go forward with the player they played a quarterback this year or draft one. That's a decision they're going to have to wait and make. The quarterback is still trying to make a statement for the future. So, but they have played very hard all year. They hit one bad slump. They came out of that this past week. I think they'll win again. Jaguars are a mess, and they're going to look towards a complete back up the truck. It started with Tom Coughlin. It won't stop there. There's going to be a lot of players leaving that team, which is in salary cap hell. They have a lot of rebuilding to do in Jacksonville.
All right, we made it. Last one for you, Mike. NFC West Division on the line. 49ers, 3.5-point favorites in Seattle. Who ends up on top of the division with a win?
You know, I do not understand what happened to Seattle last week. It was one of the more puzzling losses of the year. I mean, very, very hard to figure exactly what went on there. How that game went so sour for them. The Cardinals to beat them in a game they needed, with a game they started with the first touchdown, in a game they desperately needed. They wind up losing it by 2 touchdowns. With that being the case, I have to go with the Niners, who have been more consistent all year, and I think the Niners win.
As promised, Jeff, Ulrich, and the Fantasy Girl Rosalie Michaels are back to talk with us who they think will be chalky this week for Week 17. Jeff, we'll start with you. Who do you think will be a chalky quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of setting up as a week where a couple players are looking like they're probably going to be pretty heavy chalk. But I think Dak Prescott is probably going to lead the parade here. I mean, it's a safe play, right? I mean, you have teams coming out, they're not sure who they're going to play. Jared Goff, even now Kirk Cousins reports out that the Vikings might rest some players. But Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have to play this game to win. I mean, obviously they're still in the playoff race here if Philly loses to the Giants. So Prescott and Amari Cooper have been lights out at home. I think people are onto these home road splits. And just look at what the Washington Redskins secondary allowed Daniel Jones to do last week. 5 touchdowns. Basically could not stop anything. They're very banged up in that department as well. So I get the Dak Prescott love. It's well-deserved here. 6,300 is probably a little too cheap. I think he's going to be one of the chalkiest plays on the slate.
Rosalie,
for quarterback.
Yeah. What do you think there?
I don't know. Dak, it was so disappointing last week. I don't know how people are trusting him this week. But you know who you can trust? Ryan Tannehill. He's been a monster these past few weeks, right? And now he's going against Houston again. They're looking to clinch that playoff spot. He's had 3 touchdowns in each of the last 3 games, including that game a few weeks ago against Houston. Over 25 DK fantasy points versus that in that game. Watson's in a good spot too, but he really disappointed last week versus Tampa Bay. Plus, they've kind of sealed up their spot there, so he might not play the whole game. So I like Tannehill here. I think he's going to be chalky because he is scoring a lot of touchdowns. People are trusting him a little bit more. And Houston 24.9 fantasy points to Drew Lock, 28.6 to a not great fantasy quarterback in Tom Brady. So I think Tannehill's in a really good spot here. He's more trustworthy than Dak Prescott.
Rosalie, we'll stick with you. Who's your call at running back?
It's funny because I don't think it's going to be Dak, but I do think it's going to be Zeke. He's 8K versus Washington, and he put up 23 fantasy points versus Washington earlier in the year, and Washington gives up 141 rushing yards a game. If Dallas wants to win this game, they have to feed Zeke, and they have to feed him a lot. Saquon just had a monster game versus the last week, and then it was 38.2 fantasy points to Sanders the week before, 34.2 to Aaron Jones the week before that. It's a smash spot for Zeke at 8K. I think it's very much worth the price point there. They have to run him a lot, and they have to really, really hold on to the time of possession in order to win this game, and they know that. So I think you're going to see a lot of Zeke Elliott this week.
Yeah, Jeff, do you think people are paying up for guys like Zeke? Christian McCaffrey, we just talked about him. He's expensive, obviously, but where are you leaning here?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the Cowboys' offensive players are going to garner ownership, so definitely on board with Zeke being chalky. I feel like the guy who's probably going to lead ownership, though, at running back is going to be Alvin Kamara. I think people were waiting to see that touchdown regression. They kind of stopped trusting him last week. He finally showed up, right, with a couple long plays, and now he gets perhaps the best matchup he could hope for. I mean, the Carolina Panthers, one of the top teams in terms of pace of play, and they allow the most points to opposing running backs per game in fantasy. It's just a perfect setup for Kamara to end the season strong. And then we factor in the price. Like, he's somehow still under 8K in price in a game where the Saints are favored by almost 2 touchdowns. It just sets up too well. I mean, I get people who might be still a little tepid here saying, oh, well, is he going to keep this pace up? I would suggest, yeah, you probably want to get a piece of this guy under 8K. I know he's going to be chalky, but the matchup is too good. People are going to start to take advantage. And, again, the price, it's under 8K. So Alvin Kamara should be one of the chalkiest plays in the slate.
Jeff, do you think someone in that Tampa Bay Atlanta game is going to garner a lot of ownership at receiver, or do you think it goes somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be an overly chalky play, but a lot of these guys are going to end up garnering ownership. I actually going to look somewhere else. Again, I'm not saying that like Julio Jones and maybe Justin Watson or Perryman aren't going to garner ownership, but I'm going to look at Christian Kirk here for garnering some ownership too at 4,700. He's been Kyler Murray's kind of top target most of the year. And again, I feel like people might gravitate towards this matchup because the Rams are, they've said they're going to rest players. Jalen Ramsey is most likely going to sit this week. Christian Kirk under 5K. It's just people are looking for value somewhere. I mean, he's going to be at the top of their list. You don't see a team's kind of number one or 1A wideout available under 5K in a matchup like this very often. So I think Christian Kirk at under 5K is going to end up being like a top 5 play here just in terms of ownership.
Yeah, Rosalie, where are you going here?
Yeah, I went a different direction too. I went with Golden Tate versus Philly because he's so cheap. He's $5,100. He had 11 targets last week with Daniel Jones back. And if you watch that Dallas game from last week, Cobb was the effective guy there in Dallas. And, the Giants don't really have anything to play for here. But you know what they do like what they like doing more than beating the Cowboys? It's beating the Eagles. So they're going to try to spoil Philly's playoff hopes here and winning the division. They're going to come out guns a-blazing, I think. And, Slayton, who is questionable, he was limited in practice, had a monster game versus Philly last time. Shepard's a little bit higher at 6,100. So I think that Tate is the one to target here if you want a cheap little value play. And I think that people are going to be looking at that. They're going to be targeting that Philly secondary. And Tate is the one to go with Slayton questionable.
The position that's always tough to figure out, your tight end, Dallas Goedert was someone that did really well last week. Do you think he gets the same type of ownership here or the production, Rosalie?
I think he's definitely going to have some ownership here with Ertz, being questionable, with his health in question. But you can't. I mean, the biggest tight end chalk here is going to be Higbee. It's going to be Higbee because everybody targets the Arizona defense when it comes to the tight end. And if you look at him, he's been a target monster. He's kind of taken over that Cooper Kupp role that we've been excited about all year with Cooper Kupp. And he had 11 targets, 14 targets, and 11 targets in the past 3 games. So he's the target monster, and now he gets Arizona defense. Yeah, he's going to be chalky.
Jeff, you agree there?
Yeah, the only thing that could hold Higbee back is if the Rams, say they're going to play Jared Goff for just a quarter or something. But that's something you're probably not going to know for a bit. That could hold Higbee back. They might even sit Higbee, actually. Who knows? But the guy I'm looking towards more is O.J. Howard, only 4,300. I don't think he's going to be mega chalk or anything. But, again, people are looking for that cheap tight end play. They know Evans and Godwin are out. He did see 7 targets in his last game. I don't really love this play. I almost like players around him better. Going up to a guy going down to a guy like Jonnu Smith or going up to Goddard, like you mentioned. Even if Ertz plays, I think Goddard is definitely in play this week. But O.J. Howard, I think, could push one of the chalkiest tight ends on the slate.
All right, thanks you too, Rosalie. You did way better than me with Jeff. Have a great one. We'll finish up the show discussing spreads, NBA with Sherrod coming up. But first, we got to talk KFC Sunday Night Showdown with San Francisco at Seattle, and what should be a great NFC battle. Carolyn and Steve, take it away.
The NFC West title is on the line this Sunday night with the 49ers visiting the Seahawks. Winner takes the division. And this is the Sunday Night Showdown series presented by KFC. Tyrell and Azak here with Steve Buchanan. Steve, not sure if you're siding with the Birds for this one, but who is your Colonel's pick in the captain spot?
Yeah, I'm most certainly going to be going with George Kittle here. We talk about teams that you target against with tight ends. Arizona Cardinals come to mind, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Seahawks have quickly become one of those teams, allowing an average of 15.5 DraftKings fantasy points. They're one of 2 teams that have allowed over 1,000 receiving yards to this position. Now we have George Kittle coming into this game, who just made 13 catches on 17 targets for 132 yards. So definitely a good spot for him in this game.
If you are looking to stack someone with your Colonel spot pick, who are you excited about, Steve?
Yes, I'm actually going to be going with Russell Wilson here. Look, obviously the running back position for the Seahawks has quickly been decimated. No more Chris Carson, no more CJ Prosise, and the 49ers have been a team that you can actually throw against. Over the last 3 weeks, 2 of those games over 300 passing yards. In those 3 games, 9 passing touchdowns thrown against them. So Russell Wilson's probably going to have to be throwing a lot. This is a team that's run the ball 42% of the time on the season, but going to have to do a lot of passing in this game.
That's all for this edition of the Sunday Night Showdown series. KFC's beloved chicken and waffles are back, and now they've got a kick. Ooh. Enjoy Nashville hot chicken and waffles if you're feeling spicy, or stick to classic chicken and waffles if you're feeling, well, not spicy. Order online or get them delivered at kfc.com.
Last but not least, let's finish up with NBA high or low, deciding if these spreads for tonight's 5-game NBA slate are too high or too low. We bring in DK Live editor, the West Coast wonder himself, Sharad Hira, to help us out. First up, we got Oklahoma City -4.5 at Charlotte. I think this is too high for OKC.
You know what's really interesting? This spread has already moved to favoring OKC -3 now. Ooh. So, you know what? If you had Charlotte at -4.5, that was a great number. But now it's time to move to OKC -3. You know what? Like 4.5 was way too much, but -3 is a little bit better just because of the line movement that's already been hit.
Very nice. Next, we got Philly at -3 visiting Orlando, and B decided to show up, and he looked very, very good against Milwaukee on Christmas there. Where are you leaning here?
This is a classic letdown spot for Philly. They're coming off an emotional victory over the Bucks, and they're traveling to Orlando. But -3, it's not a large enough spread, and Orlando is not a good enough team that I believe they'll be able to cover here. I'm still rolling with Philly on the road. They're going to continue their dominant play and kind of, build on that and run it to All-Star break and try to push for that #1 seed now.
Yeah, speaking of Milwaukee, they're giving 11.5 to Atlanta in Atlanta. What do you think in this spot?
What's really interesting is that Giannis is probable for this game due to the back issue that was bothering him on Christmas Day. Giving up 11 points, I'm not really comfortable going with Milwaukee. You know what? I think the better play in this game is to wait for it in-game. Let Atlanta build up. John Collins is returning. This is his second game back. So I think there's going to be a better opportunity here to get it a little bit closer spread and to take Milwaukee if you're feeling that side. Otherwise, right now at 11 points, I'm favoring Atlanta.
Yeah, the Pacers travel to Miami, and the Heat are -5 at home. Is this too high or too low here?
This is not, I wouldn't say it's high or low. I think it's just right. Isn't that the saying? It's not too high, not too low. It's just right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Miami here, favored by 5 points. Malcolm Brogdon is a game-time decision. He's missed the last couple games, and, it's a situation where Jimmy Butler's playing well. Bam Adebayo's playing well. Indiana is a little bit banged up. They have to focus on other players, and their continuity is a little bit struggling. They were off for Christmas, and, it's a situation where they're going to go to Miami. Maybe they have a little bit of a Miami hangover. I'm liking Miami right here.
Yeah, if you're Julian Edlow, you like those Miami hangovers. Apologies, Edlow. Lastly, we got the Suns -3 at Golden State. You liking this for Phoenix, or maybe the home dogs can cover?
I feel really confident that the home dogs will be able to cover the spread. I'm not really sure even why Phoenix is favored. DeAndre Ayton is not going to play in this game. D'Angelo Russell is going to be able to carry the Warriors. The Warriors coming off an amazing victory over the Rockets. Why the Suns are favored, I'm not sure. Even the money line looks really appetizing in this game for Golden State, in my opinion.
All right, last but not least, your slate-approved pick. Who is your DFS lock for tonight's 5-game NBA slate?
I just mentioned him right now, 7,400, D'Angelo Russell. He has 50-point upside here, and it's a matchup against the Suns. It's the second highest scoring game on the slate, so lock in D'Angelo Russell at under 8K and get the other options in on that game. It's a stackable game completely.
All right, man's got ice in his veins. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Apologies for the Trangelo family. I got it. Hope everyone is enjoying their families this time of the year. From our family here at DraftKings, thanks again. And we'll see you guys this weekend for the Sweat on Sunday from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on all the socials. Aloha.